Hello and welcome into the Farmers Union pregame show. As always, I'm Ken Oda. Noah Grant is alongside. The Toros come in off of a loss last Saturday night in Aberdeen, 2 weekend splits in a row, Noah. And, I said it on Trib Live Wednesday night. If your slump, quote unquote, is a couple of weekend splits back to back, you're having a good year.
Well, we'll talk about a team that's slumping a little bit as of late coming into this building. But, yeah, I think the one thing that we're kind of learning, and I know we have, some injury bugs and we had some illness kind of running through a little bit for the past couple of weeks, too, and the Toros still able to find a pair of wins out of that. But, the other thing that you have to kind of remember is, at some point a team is going to be beatable. You'd rather have the Toros be a little bit beatable in maybe January, February, given their position in the standings compared to a couple months after that. So a bit of a disappointing one, I would say, on Saturday, all things considered. I think a lot of guys would agree that it wasn't the Toros' best effort so far. I think you could say the same for Friday against St. Cloud 2 weekends ago. But, you're not going to be perfect for 60 games. It's all about kind of how you respond, and coming back at home in this building has been favorable.
For sure. And, the Toros got the win the night before on Friday in Aberdeen, a 3-0 win. Lucas Sweden made 27 saves in his first shutout as a Toro. So overall, not a horrible weekend on the road. But, really the first, quote-unquote, big loss for the Toros all year, that 5-2 final on Saturday.
Yeah, big spread. If memory serves, that should be the first one, besides the empty netters, that is a multi-goal loss for the Toros. So, if you're hitting that point in, I guess, technically, what would that be, game 37 of the season? That's not too bad.
Yeah, for sure. And some good performances last weekend as well. Nick Zwiecki, 2 goals and an assist. Ian Spencer with a couple of helpers. And then, the usual suspects, Ketten and Lettinen with points. Joachim, Stahowiak, Casey, Bear, Knox, Funtek, all with points. So, still some bright spots on a weekend split that, again, when a split feels bad, things are going well.
Yeah, and I think you kind of, we'll get into this a little bit, but guys that maybe haven't been the most productive still starting to add more to that secondary scoring. When you're getting secondary scoring to your secondary scoring, things are going all right despite the loss last weekend.
Meanwhile, things not going all right for the Austin Bruins. They've lost 5 in a row coming into the weekend. Toros haven't lost back-to-back games at all. Austin and the Toros were tied in November atop the division. Austin's fallen on the outside looking in on the playoff picture.
Yeah, it's been really tough, to say the least. And this was a team that, like you mentioned, in November, they had, I want to say, like a plus 14 or plus 15 goal differential. They're coming in right now at -6. That kind of shows the drop-off that they've had. And it's a bit surprising. I know that they've been kind of bit with the injury bug a little bit too, especially at the goaltending position. But nonetheless, you returned 14 guys that made a Robertson Cup final last year. Yeah, not exactly great.
Well, and you start to wonder if fatigue is an issue, right? They did play all the way into mid-May. Then they come back, and now we hit the dog days of the season. A group that's gone as far as they did last year, I think, just think about NHL Stanley Cup champions, right, where they might kind of drop off a little bit in the season before, but they're still dangerous. And if they get into the postseason, they know how to win in the postseason, so they remain a dangerous team, regardless of where they might be in the standings right now.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing as we move, to the Noodles numbers is the fact that Minot on the other side, plus 51 for their goal differential, 3.46 goals for, that's 128 total on the season compared to 101 at 2.81 for the Austin Bruins. On the other side, 2.08 goals against, 77 given up for the Toros. Very good. One of the few teams to give up less than 100 this season in the Central Division. And we mentioned it, -6. The Austin Bruins, 107 given up on their side of things, just under 3 goals against per game. I think if you would tell me a year ago that was going to be the case, I think we would have been a little bit surprised. Power play from Minot getting better, 10th in the league. PK still holding well. And then this Austin Bruins team, even more surprising, their PK at 21st, not the best.
Yeah.
But a power play 7th in the league, that's...
No, we've seen them, they're very dangerous on the power play, and it's also good, as you point out, the Toros now top 10 in the league on power play as well. It wasn't that long ago that the Toros were hovering in that 18 to 23 range on the power play. So the man advantage has really been clicking along here of late for the Toros. We touched on it a little bit already, but let's take a look at the Toros Tribune Central Division standings. Toros still atop the pile, 9 points ahead of Bismarck, who have won 5 in a row. Toros, like we said, with a couple of weekend splits, have seen that lead dwindle from 13 to 9 points. St. Cloud and Aberdeen round out the playoff picture, and then those Austin Bruins 4 points back of Aberdeen, but 2 games in hand compared to Aberdeen and St. Cloud. So certainly not as out of the playoff picture as a quick glance at the standings might seem.
Well, and I think the underrated piece, I keep mentioning it, Bismarck, again, they've won 5 straight after their soiree with the Toros. They're a team that continues to kind of close in. You really don't want any matchup in the Central Division, but I think that's a group that, as we continue to push into playoff time, is going to get more and more dangerous, and the Toros see them for quite a few more games this season. I think those are going to be some really important ones.
For sure, and also just looking ahead, if the Toros and Bobcats can stay atop the division and then end up seeing each other in a Central Division Finals, it could be an absolute madhouse here in the Pepsi.
Yeah,
that's getting way ahead of ourselves.
It is getting way ahead of ourselves, but you just hope that if it were to come to a playoff series, that history would repeat itself. That's all I'll say about that.
Let's take a look now at the Minotauros Booster Club players to watch. I'll kick this off with Nick Zwiecki. Nick has been red hot of late, 7-game point streak, 4 goals, 5 assists over those last 7 games. And tonight, with Nicholas Kettinen out of the lineup due to illness, he'll move on to the third line.
Yeah, I've really liked his game. We've raved about him, a very underrated 200-foot centerman. Again, a utilitarian, the Swiss Army knife, as Cody Campbell likes to call him. You can put him anywhere in the lineup, and he's going to give you a consistent effort. Speaking of being back in the lineup recently and earning your keep, my guy to watch, Ian Spencer, 2 assists last weekend. And he's somebody who I feel like has a really good amount of raw talent.
Yeah.
And he's someone that also is learning about that work ethic side of things. We see him, especially on the penalty kill, being very aggressive on the forecheck, bringing that energy. I think it comes to Cody Campbell and company to refine that raw talent into the aspect of playing NA hockey, being consistent on both sides of the puck, giving good shifts game in and game out. I've really liked his effort so far, especially last weekend. For
sure, and he doesn't have a ton of points, but you go back and look at the points he does have. The assist on Nick Zwiecki's goal on Friday night was unreal. The goal he scored on the breakaway in Aberdeen the last time we were down there doesn't have a ton of points, but if you go back and look at all of them, they're all jaw-dropping skill plays. So it's really, really interesting to see how he rounds out his game here as the season pushes on.
Yeah, and quietly a speedy forward, too. He's had a couple of breakaways in recent weekends that he's been back in the lineup as well. I think he really is deceptive when he enters a one-on-one situation with a defenseman. They think they've got him lined up, and suddenly he just sneaks past him, and he creates a great opportunity.
That'll bring us to our home key group's keys to the game. Noah, I'll let you go ahead and start this one off.
Well, we talked about the loss in Aberdeen. Don't make it a habit, right? This is a Toros team that has yet to lose in back-to-back games this season. 9 total losses on the year, 8 in regulation, 1, of course, in the extra session. You don't want to make it a 2-game losing streak for the first time all season.
And for me, as a Chicago kid, Blues Brothers fan, I'll say it's hold on is the motto for this weekend. We know this Austin Bruins team. We've talked about it for a few years now, Noah. Steve Howard has them play a game that really tests the officials, right? Mm-hmm. Hooking, holding, little slashes, interference on every dump-in. You're not going to get a free release to go chase it down. So, expect that. Don't let it frustrate you.
Yeah, would agree. And my final pick here for the combo pick, while they're down, this Austin Bruins team is slumping. The Toros have a chance to make it 7 losses in a row for this team and put them in a very tough spot trying to climb back into the playoff picture. We mentioned it about a month ago. It was Aberdeen looking dead to rights. Well, surprise, looks like the Wings have life in the Austin Bruins, while the Bear is certainly hibernating for winter right now because it does not look good for this Austin team. These Toros have a chance to make it even more difficult for the reigning Central Division champions.
That'll bring us to our Four Bears Casino and Lodge over-unders. You can play along in the Toros Hockey mobile app and a chance to win a stay-and-play package from our friends at Four Bears. I'll go with Toros first period goals, 0.5. Will the Toros start this one off right?
Yeah, over.
Total Toros shot differential, I've got it at plus 5.5.
You asked me this question 2 months ago against this team. I would take the under because the Bruins have been one group that has solved this Toros team. They haven't met in quite a while. I'm going to go with the over because one team's going in one way. The other one certainly has not been great.
And total Toros goals allowed, 2.5, coming off 5 goals allowed last Saturday.
Depends how angry the Bruins are about their last weekend, really is what it comes down to. Again, as I talked about with this line, 3 is not out of the question, but just statistically, I think you go last Saturday was a bit of an anomaly. I'm going to go with the under because that's just, percentage-wise, that's where we've been at for most of the season.
That'll bring us to the McDonald's Toros Trivia, another game you can play in the Toros Hockey mobile app. Who is the only Toro to record 4 points in a single game against the Austin Bruins? Jack Murphy, Kyle Kukkonen, Blaine Warner, and Jaden Martin?
I have no idea, to be honest with you. I'm going to go with Jack Murphy. That's a great hockey name, by the way, too. Just throwing that out there.
I'll be honest, that's why I picked this question, because I couldn't remember the answer when I was looking through our library of questions. But that'll do it for the Farmers Union pregame show. For Noah Grant, I'm Ken Oda. It's time to turn it over to Josh Karlock for the introductions of tonight's starting lineup.